Hello everyone. We have a game with the white pieces against Alex Doro, rated 13-15. Let's see if we can get a Ruy Lopez. And we do. We develop the bishop and attack the knight. But we're not really attacking it, so I don't know why we put it there. But we do, because that's the Ruy Lopez. So we retreat our bishop because we have to, so we don't hang it. And now he develops for free. Fine. We still castle, giving him the opportunity to hunt our bishop. He didn't take it. Fine. Um, let's play c3. Prepare our center, give the bishop an escape square. He protects his pawn. But he didn't really stop us. Takes. Our pawn's a little loose here. So let's maybe play the rook out first. Okay, he develops the knight, eyes the... Maybe he's also eyeing this. And now I'll push in the center. Let's see how he responds. My rook is opposite his king, so I like that alignment. He retreats the bishop. Okay. If we kick the knight, he can go somewhere here. c6, c5. It's possible. We can also maintain tension. We could also develop. If we pin the knight and he kicks us, takes. Could also castle long. Okay, a4, just the usual positional improving move when you're not exactly sure how you want to continue. I want to see what black does first before I commit too much. a4, move I want to make anyway, whether he castles king side, queen side, I like this move. Okay, so he castles king side, so we have that information. Good. Okay, now we can see what we want to do. Now if we go here and he goes here, does that change anything? Well, now we can try to keep the pin, and at least if he plays g5 to make our bishop trapped, blocked in, it's on his king side. Okay. We could always, again, try to bully this knight, cramp him up. It's possible. First, let's throw the bishop out, though. Let's get it out there. He does hit it. I'm going to go here. Maybe I sacrifice. But then my central pawn hangs. So he goes there. Takes. I have to add pressure. Takes. He takes. I add pressure to the knight. I'm hitting it twice. If he moves the knight, he hangs the queen. He can't counter my queen with his knight. He can't defend it with any of his minor pieces or major pieces. If he takes another pawn, I'll checkmate him. If he lifts the king, so here, 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 here. Um, what's the ideas? Here we go. He doesn't have to take, this isn't forced. But it was hanging, so I wanted to calculate it. But he could, start with his king up. He could start with a defensive, well, not that one, but, some type of maneuvering move. Although he is really short on squares. He can't really maneuver his minor pieces that much, can he? And if he lets us, if he doesn't take, he does. He does immediately hang the piece back that I sacrificed. Because that's what I was thinking. You want to bring the knight back to go like knight g6, block any checks from a heavy piece and solidify, but you can't do it because your knight's unprotected. So now we're just up 2 pawns, the 2 pawns that we sacked our piece for. And now we can go here and hang our queen. But I like the rook lift because he did not take our pawn. So now we have this one opportunity to rook lift. He can move his knight, which is annoying. Queen here, he still goes here and defends the mate. But if you take the knight, then you don't have the bishop for the mate. But let's take the knight because it's just a good defender. Then we can give the check, forcing the king over. And then we can rook lift and not have to worry about knight jumps. And you can see how out of play these bishops are. And what do you do to stop this? You don't. So that was a really nice attack stemming from the Ruy Lopez with just a rook lift and a queen. Ladder mate in the middle game on move 19 against the 1400. This is a 1300. This is the good stuff. So let's go through the game. We get the start of the Ruy. Force move. Force move. Simple enough. Now, you could play c3 so that you don't give him the bishop. So move order wise, you probably want to start with c3, but we just castle. No big deal. Center, with the idea of getting a full center, and it helps escape square. Development, center, center, development. This is the whole idea behind the Ruy, is to get the 2 pawns with the pawn support. Because, if you just play d4, which you can play a lot of times without the c pawn, and they take, you usually have to take with the knight, and then you don't get the pawn duo. So Ruy Lopez wants to play a little slower, a little more positional, play c3, try to get 2 pawns in the center instead of the pawn in the piece, which a lot of other faster tries by white lead to. Let's say the Scotch game, right? So anyway, center for free. And now if I turn on the engine, there's probably a bunch of moves you can make. h3, develop the bishop, or a4. h3 is another nice waiting move you can make, but I feel like a4 is a slightly more useful waiting move. Can't really explain why, but it seems it's slightly more active than h3. And since I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my bishop, that's why I went for a4. So, nice move. Whenever you move the pawn, the rook is behind, you get at least some benefits. Now I figure since he castles here, I'm not so worried about h6, g5, because at least if he's not castled, and let's say this turn I go here, and then he goes h6, I don't really want to go back here. I kind of want to stay on this diagonal, but then why'd I go here to begin with? And if I do go back and he kicks me, well, now if you do sacrifice, his king's not here. So the lines are going to be much trickier for white. And yeah, here you have to retreat the bishop, and it says it's an equal game, but I don't like my bishop here with the pawns here. It says now that he should castle, but I guess now you don't have the option of the sacrifice. So, but that's not what happened in the game. In the game, I delayed the bishop move till after he castled. So now when he pushes, I go back. Now he should not play g5 because this gives me the added option, the one added line. But like normally almost all the lines are the same, but I get this one extra option of taking this pawn with the knight while he's castled. So that's the one nuance here. Um, so now you can see why I waited to develop my bishop until he was castled, because g5 is no longer scary. I wasn't 100% sure if the sack worked. Apparently it's the best move. Everything else is just an even game, so you could do something else, but best move is to take with the knight, because if you take with the bishop and he takes and your knight's here, that's not a pin. You're not threatening anything. Your queen can't come in because of the knight, and then you basically just sack the piece for pawns and no further compensation, which is not good enough. We need to sack our piece for 2 pawns and more compensation than that, so it's at least even, right? So we take, and the engine says it's plus 0.4. So slightly better for white with the best move, but nothing that black should be getting checkmated over, at all. It's not even a pawn. So he has to take to, it's the critical line, and we have to take. So the best move by far for black, which basically keeps the plus 0.3 or plus 0.5, it keeps changing, but slight edge for white, is if he takes in the center the hanging pawn, which is what I was calculating. The difference is plus 0.5. The next best move, king g7, which I mentioned, 1.5. So a whole pawn's worth difference, and anything other than those 2 moves is just completely losing. So I was considering the 2 only moves that make any sense. And the good thing about pawn takes, e takes d, is I can no longer do this rook lift. And this rook lift actually gives me huge attacking chances. Um, for checkmates, for the knight pressure. Just being able to lift this rook is a huge difference than not being able to lift it. It might completely change whether this sacrifice is good or not. That's why I was trying to see what I have after pawn takes. Um, and he immediately blunders the game, which, okay, you guys can win from here, but let's see. If he lifts the king, right? He didn't stop us from rook lifting. So although you can go queen f3 and add pressure, the knight still hit twice. I feel like lifting the rook up, since you have that one moment, and then going rook g3 or h3 makes a lot of sense. And okay, by far the best move, rook e3 for a +2 advantage. a5, I was looking at that. It's funny because it deflects the knight from the center. But, um, okay, so queen f3 is a completely even game because he just takes the hanging pawn, and you're not actually threatening anything just yet. So you have to try to add pressure with the x-ray or something weird. That's why it's important to get the rook in. So that's on king g7. So I did think his best move was to take. Now I don't have rook in. So now I'm kind of in a weird situation where it's like a standoff. I can add pressure, but it's not game ending by any means. But he's in this weird pin and he can't really get out of it. So it's awkward for both sides. And I guess whoever plays more accurately from here is going to win. White's plus 0.6. But you have to see who is it harder to play for, practically speaking, for this rating. Right? Because different ratings will be different answers. They want me to play bishop d5 here. Probably just to release the tension from my center. Interesting move. So bishop d5. Let's say he goes king up. Oh, it's a free pawn. It pins his knight. I see. It pins his knight. Okay. If he just pushes the pawn, then we go queen f3. So they just want us to throw it in first. Weird. If we go queen f3 immediately, it's just an even game. So this is much more likely to happen by me because bishop d5 is weird. So now I'm hitting the knight twice. And they say jump the knight in the center. I can say I was not considering that. Um, isn't his knight hanging? So what is this? Okay, so he gives me the piece, hangs some pawns. So the pawns I won before, I mean that I traded for the piece before, he's giving me the piece back and getting his pawns back kinda. And there's no queen, so he's not getting mated, and it's all zeros. Okay. I don't see any human, not any human. Strong players can definitely do that, but not 1400s are going to go into that for sure. Okay, so his best move was knight e5. The only other move for equality is king g7. Everything else loses by +4 or more. But obviously, a human is going to move his king up because that makes the most sense. And it's still all zeros without any weird, crazy lines of knight hops and taking pawns and stuff, whatever that was. Um, okay, and here I was probably going to go here to be honest. And then black's just better. Because I really wanted the rook lift. I was kind of counting on it, but you can't get it in here. So there's no real way to add pressure immediately. So it's a tricky situation. So the computer still wants bishop d5, pinning the knight, which is a smart move because that really protects your center in a nice way. Indirectly and directly. Cool move, I like it. a5, deflecting the knight. If he takes, right? We take the knight, he takes. We just gave up our rook. Computer's wild. Okay, so queen g3. Black is better because he has knight h5 getting out of the pin because of tactics. So if you don't go to a square where the knight can hit it, and you do something like queen h3, he can then just challenge the h file. So you don't really have like a good way to improve with the queen. You don't have a way to bring the rook in. If you just develop your knight casually, he's gonna wreck you. So you, by process of elimination, you kind of have to find bishop d5 because you realize your queen doesn't have any good squares because of this tactic. And then if you can't move the queen, you know this is coming. And if you look for ways to stop it, you can't unless you do bishop d5. So the process of elimination in a slow game, you find this move for sure. He can still go for the queen because of tactics. And maybe he has c6 coming. But the knight's hanging. Wait. No, it's not. The bishop's hanging at the end of the line. And it's complete equality. I actually am not a huge fan of this, any of this, to be honest. So I like my sacrifice if and only if the rook lift is available. Even though it doesn't blunder anything and the computer says it's the best move and supports it, I don't really like the continuations unless I have the rook lift. Even though the engine likes it, I want the rook lift or I don't like it. It's far too only move-ish for a human because you just don't have the resources you want. So anyway, he blunders the knight, and now it's mate in 3. Although we just simplified the game, and he got mated in 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, whatever. So It ended up being a perfect game, but only because Block did not play perfectly. If he did play engine like, I very much would have gone wrong there, as you saw. Um, or I might have found bishop d5 if I took a second to think. We'll never know. So I'll see you in the next game. Good luck in your chess. Goodbye.